Hello and welcome to a new video. Today we're going to take a look at the past Paradox forms in Pokemon Go. And let's see if those are going to be great for the Master League especially. One of them maybe for the Ultra League. And yeah, today we're going to take a look at those. If you want to see a second part for the future Paradox forms, then you know what you have to do. Leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. Would really appreciate it. We're getting closer to the 50-50 split for subscribers, non-subscribers. So if you have not subscribed to the channel, just check down below and feel free to subscribe. But anyway, let's move on to the first Pokemon here, Great Tusk. And before we start, some of the Pokemon are already in the code, and some of the Pokemon are already on PvPoke. One of them going to be Great Tusk already. The moveset that you see here right now is basically just stuff that I looked through the moveset itself and just like tried to put into PvP and PvPoke itself. So not the moves here. When it says basically potential, it's not in the game code. Like, just have to say that. So like those are going to be basically the best moves that this Pokemon could learn. The thing is, the CP, if you go to PvPoke, going to be a different one. This is going to be lower. Why is that the case? If you didn't know, for Pokemon that are getting new introduced into Pokemon Go, if their CP goes above 4000 CP at level 40, then they're going to get a 9% drop on their stats. And this always happens. It's currently not in the current code, because it's not refined, and like the Pokemon name itself is like not even, like it's Great Tusk, but without the space in between. So like it's not like perfectly fine so far. Like it's gonna get reduced stats for sure. Like there's not a single case where the stats were not reduced. So for my video, I reduced them myself basically to the stuff that's going to happen as soon as those Pokemon are going to be released. But just want to make this sure. If you look at PvPoke and you see those Pokemon already, which are already in, if you're confused about the CP is most likely going to be what you see in this video today, and so it's going to be a little bit more accurate. But anyways, let's move on. We're going to see here the moveset of Mudshot, most likely going to be very decent close combat as well as Dig. We're going to see the ground and fighting typing, which is kind of cool and unique, so I like this Pokemon quite a lot because of this as well. But as you're gonna see here, it's not going to be too great for PvP, sadly, because it just barely got over the 4000 CP at level 40. If it didn't get the 9% nerf, which is definitely going to be able to get, it would have been way better, but sadly, because of the nerf, it's not going to be too great of a Pokemon. But yeah, it is what it is, and we can see as well, I gave it a grade of a D tier, so like it's going to be most likely not really usable. But yeah, let's move on to the second Pokemon for today, going to be Screamtail. And this Pokemon has basically no good fast moves in the game. It learns basically only the elemental fangs of like Fire Fang, Ice Fang, as well as Thunder Fang. But his great charge move that they can learn, for example, Psychic Fangs, which would be really great for this Pokemon, Play Rough as another stab option, or Body Slam as like a cheap option. Here we just went for the ones that PvPoke suggested to me. But what you can see here is, and also why we are in the Ultra League, the stats of this Pokemon are insane for the Ultra League and Great League. And yes, if this Pokemon is going to be available in raids, it's also going to be available for Great League, because at level 20, you're still going to be below 1500 CP. And so this is going to be basically a better variant of Cresselia, most likely. Like, it feels like kind of the same, because you have Moonblast usually on Cresselia, and you have a Psychic type on Cresselia, but like this is very likely going to be a very good Pokemon for the Ultra League as well as Great League. As you can see here, great average rating. Of course, the moveset again is going to be potential moveset. It's not going to have to be this moveset, but it's very likely going to get all the elemental fangs no matter what. And so this is going to be an S tier grade Pokemon. Very excited for this Pokemon in the future. It's going to be very likely very strong. Moving on, going to be one of the Pokemon that I don't really like. I just don't really see the point of this thing here. But yeah, we're going to have a Grass and Dark type, just like the root. And it is basically just like the root. Like, it is going to have Grass Knot, like as a potential move, which is the same as Power Whip. You're going to have Crunch, which is better than Dark Pulse. We don't have as great fast moves as the Root. The Root has the fast move of Vine Whip, which we don't have access to, so like we're going to lag a little bit there. But we're going to have, I think, a little bit of better stats. But no matter what, this Pokemon is basically just as cheap as the Root. So if you have not built a Root yet or whatever, maybe you even want to hold on to for whenever this Pokemon is going to be released here. Of course, most likely going to still take a year or something, but I still kind of want to take a look at the future for Pokemon Go, even though it's a past form. But I give it a C tier. It's okay, like it is kind of, it's just the root, basically, it's just the root. The root is kind of okay. I would put the root most likely into a B / C tier. We have a little bit of a worse fast move here compared to the root, so I feel like the root is still going to be a little bit better than this Pokemon. But who knows, maybe stuff changes till then anyway, but still, this Pokemon has at least a little bit of potential, which is kind of nice to see. Next Pokemon. We're going to have like a fan favorite, and I think the design is just very cool. I like this Pokemon quite a bit. Flutter Mane, a very cool Pokemon here for sure. Being Ghost and Fairy type is a great moveset. Not a moveset, a typing. Of course, for the moveset, it's also kind of interesting because you're going to have Hex as well as Charm as potential fast moves. Very likely to be Hex over Charm. I think they are going to give this Pokemon Charm, to be fair, but we can still take a look at it because it's going to be the best way of playing this Pokemon. Potential charge moves, we have Shadow Ball, we have Mystical Fire, which would be very good for us, and this is one of the few Pokemon that learn Mystical Fire by leveling up, so it's very likely that we're gonna see this on this Pokemon, but very likely with like Hex or whatever. Moonblast as well as Psyshock, all those moves I think they're all needy stuff that you only get from leveling up this Pokemon, which is usually more what Niantic goes for in terms of moveset, so very cool there. Great CP stat as well here of 4,200 nearly, and what we're gonna see here as well is that this Pokemon has a great average rating. With Charm, especially in the 2-shit scenario, it would be by far the best Charmer in the game. But I would expect that we're gonna get Hex, but still, even if we're gonna get Hex, it's very likely to be a very strong Pokemon and a very good sweeper, especially because you have very hard-hitting stab moves for a very good coverage as well. Like, Dark is basically the only thing that resists like Ghost for this kind of meta, of course Normal as well, but there's basically no Normal type Pokemon around in the Master League. And Fairy type is just going to be able to destroy that. So Ghost is kind of free right now anyway in the Master League already. And Fairy typing is going to help a lot with the Dragon Pokemon like the Palkia, for example, where you're just going to be able to double resist the fast move. And so it's A tier plus for me because, again, I think it's going to be more Hex as a fast move for this, which is going to make it a little bit worse. But the typing, the CP, the stats all kind of speak towards the Pokemon. So I'm kind of excited for this thing for sure. Going to be a great Pokemon to see for PvP. I wish I could say the same about the next Pokemon. We're going to have a Pokemon that has fast moves like Ember and Bug Bite. No counter for this thing. It doesn't have counter, it doesn't have any good fast moves, to be fair, and this is kind of why it's so lacking. And it has great charge move potential, like Flame Charge, Wild Charge, Superpower, Lunge, all kind of great, especially with Superpower and Lunge being Step. But as you're gonna see as well, it's just not great. It needs a better fast move. It would get like a new fast move or whatever in the game for this Pokemon would be kind of nice. So we're gonna put this into E rank because right now Ember and Bug Bite for the Master League, it is just not good enough, and so we can move on to the next Pokemon. Sandy Shock's going to be basically a buffed Stunfisk, I don't know, Electric and Ground. Going to have access to a Mudshot, Volt Switch, Thunder Shock as well if you really want to, Scorching Sands, Discharge as well as Earth Power. I still kind of want to see a different kind of electric type fast charge attack coming into the game, which I will make a video about as well. Maybe I already did. I don't know when this video is going to be live, but still kind of interesting Pokemon for sure. But let's see how this is going to actually work for the Master League. And sadly, we're going to see it's not really great. It's not really like, it doesn't have the CP really for it. Like, it's not going above like 4,000. It's kind of what you kind of want to have as a sweet spot, or you have like a crazy cool typing like Tapu Bulu with like great moves that can break the meta. Not the same for Sandy Shock, so it's very likely not to be a good Pokemon to be used at all. So D tier feels kind of okay for it. Maybe if we're going to get something like Electro Web or whatever, I don't even know if it learns this move. As a charge move, it might be decent, but let's move on to the next one. Roaring Moon. This is going to be a Pokemon that has quite interesting fast moves like Dragon Breath, Incinerate, Shadow Claw. And again, as said before, the Pokemon that you see here, I try to give them the best possible moveset. Why? Because I kind of want to see what is the maximum potential to see if those Pokemon have impact to the meta, if they would be able to, if they're going to be released. So, what you're going to see, especially for like upcoming Pokemon, Dragon type Pokemon usually on Breaking Swipe in the current meta, or like in current games. And so I'm going to add it onto it. Breaking Swipe is basically just a better Dragon Claw. And while you're going to see here right now that it's only going to get an average rating of 484, PvPoke basically says the first Breaking Swipe never gets debuff and the second one always gets the debuff. So basically, in the actual, if you just play the Pokemon or whatever, you're going to have better results than what it shows here right now. So it is for me B, maybe even A tier of a Pokemon. Of course, Dragon and Dark is going to be something that you know as well from Hydreigon. It's very likely to be a little bit of a better Hydreigon. Depends on the moveset, to be fair. Like, if this Pokemon gets a horrible moveset, it's going to be worse than Hydreigon. But it has some potential. It looks kind of funny. And so we can move on to the next Pokemon. This Pokemon should have not been in this video because it is in, like, technically no Paradox Pokemon, but I feel like it's kind of still fitting towards it. So Koraidon is kind of like It is kind of honestly from like the different kind of Pokemon. Also in Paldea, where I forgot the name. It's also kind of Wheelie Boy, like the past form forward. So I still kind of want to put it in here. And for this Pokemon, those charge moves and fast moves are actually in the game code already. So like those are going to be the ones that are very likely going to be released. Might of course still change before it's going to be released, but those are already in the code. And I could see that those Pokemon going to be released maybe even after the Go Fest, like the final Go Fest, as like some kind of bonus. That happened already to Zacian before and Zamazenta. And so I could imagine that Koraidon, Miraidon might actually get an early release into Pokemon Go as well. So that might be interesting, but this Pokemon already has the moves in there. I already made a video like half a year or a year ago when they actually added this. And honestly, it looks like a great Pokemon to use, and for me that's an S tier pick for sure. Especially as it has like a signature move as well, which it could get, which is going to be a fighting type move that looks a very good collision course, it's called. And so it will be very good as a Pokemon in the Master League, very likely at least. Like it's going to be a very good Dragon Pokemon again, like has great stats here for sure. And so we can move on to the next ones. 3 more to go. Walking Wake, a water and Dragon type Pokemon. Going to be the same as something like a Kingdra. Kingdra also has kind of Waterfall and Dragon Breath, like this Pokemon I think has as well, as far as I saw that. Also, I think it learns Dragon Tail and stuff like this, but Dragon Breath is usually better. Again, as said before, Breaking Swipe is on this Pokemon as well, which could learn Surf, Flamethrower, Liquidation, Scald. Basically every kind of water type move it can learn. Also learns Dragon Claw again. So you're gonna go by the Breaking Swipe plus, I want to say Breaking Claw, plus Surf, which is going to be very likely the best moveset. You can also go opt for Liquidation or Scald. But as you're gonna see here, this Pokemon would get a crazy average rating of 563, kind of being like Palkia in a way, and so it's very likely going to be a very solid Pokemon to use. For me, S tier grade, very, very good. This is most likely the Pokemon I'm most excited for like the legendary Paradox Pokemon, because Incinerate, Breaking Swipe, or like Dragon Claw, depends on what you're gonna go for, and Flame Charge looks insane. These stats are kinda nice, and I just want to have a very good Incinerate user for the Master League that isn't Ho-Oh. And so this Pokemon is something I'm really looking forward to. Hopefully we're gonna get something similar, maybe just go for Dragon Claw and Breaking Swipe and you're fine. But this looks like a cool sweeper for the Master League, and I'm all for it, and I think it's going to be a cool Pokemon in general. So yeah, the Gouging Fire here is going to have a lot of potential, and so of course it's an S tier Pokemon in terms of what it can do. And then there is like the awkward third, and I'm kind of feeling sorry for this Pokemon. Raging Bolt. You see CP below 4000 CP. Why is it the case? Because unlike the other two, at level 40, this Pokemon, because it has better stats than the other ones, actually exceeds the 4000 CP, and as before said, then you're gonna get a 9% nerf onto the stats of the Pokemon. And so now it's even below 4000 CP at level 50. It is what it is, like, it's sadly how like the calculations kind of work, and so sadly this Pokemon is going to be not as good as it could have been, but it is still going to be an interesting pick for sure. Maybe they're going to give it some love with like some other kind of new Faust or whatever. It has like a signature move as well. But it is sadly not going to be as great as the other Pokemon, just because it was too good in terms of getting just above the 4000 CP. And that's kind of unfortunate, because it can also ruin some Pokemon, but it is what it is. It's kind of trying to balance some Pokemon out, like also the Koraidon, for example, there. But yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you want to see a second part for the future forms, then let me know in the comment section. Leave a like on the video, or subscribe, and I'll see you then. Bye bye.